Hello, everyone, and good evening. Welcome to a live stream tonight. This is not going to be a live game broadcast tonight. And this is actually the first time I'm doing an event that is not live. I just got home a few minutes ago from work, so I didn't catch this live, but I'm going on now to show the new college football playoff top 25 rankings. Again, these came out just about an hour and a half ago, so this will not be live. But wanted to do this tonight to get the latest top 25 rankings in college football heading into conference championship weekend. And this is the next to last college football playoff top 25 of the season. See where all these teams are. Anxious to see what they ended up doing with Ole Miss, since they do not have their coach any longer, Lane Kiffin, as he went off to LSU. So anxious to see what they did with them. And so we're going to react on these latest top 25 rankings in the college football playoff. And the final 12 will be revealed this coming Sunday afternoon, just after noon Eastern time. We will have our 12-team college football playoff. I will be on a live stream later on Sunday afternoon, early evening, to react to the 12-team playoff in the college football playoff rankings and look at all the first-round matchups, possibly look at some appealing bowl games as well on the schedule. So that's what's on the agenda. That's coming up on Sunday after all the conference championship games have been played. So we're going to get into the reveal here. Again, this is not live. These were revealed about an hour and a half ago, but I'm just now seeing them myself. I have not been on to see them, so want to go on and react and see who is where in the latest top 25 in the college football playoff. And of course, there's the meeting in Grapevine, Texas. We are a couple of wins from certain teams away from having a little bit of chaos in the college football playoff rankings. As you look at the guys in the studio, I have it muted. If anybody's watching and want me to up the sound, I will. Will James Madison is a team I'm also looking at. They're 19th in the AP and coaches poll this week. I have a feeling we are going to see James Madison's name in the college football playoff rankings this week, and that would be large for reason, which I'll discuss here in just a couple minutes after we see where everybody is. I'm assuming 1 and 2 are going to stay the same. Ohio State, Indiana. I'm assuming Georgia will move to 3. Texas Tech will move to 4. How far will Texas A&M drop is a question. Will Oregon move up into the top 5? And again, real anxious to see what they ended up doing with Ole Miss. I'm going to pause this as it goes on through as well. Of course, there's the description of how the playoff works. Of course, the top 4 get the first round bye. Seeds 5, 6, 7, and 8 will host first round games. All right, here and there, right as I said, James Madison, they are in the poll this week, as is North Texas for the first time. James Madison in at 25, North Texas at 24. Iowa cracks the poll this week at number 23. Georgia Tech, despite losing to Georgia, they still climb a spot up to number 22. And Houston back into the rankings this week at number 21. Houston's had a solid season there in the Big 12 at 9 and 3. That James Madison being in the top 25 and North Texas being in the top 25, that has some play here. But James Madison, what a year they have had. And for the second time in 2 years, they're going to end up losing their head coach, as it appears he is headed to UCLA to be the Bruins' next head coach. So 4 new teams into the top 25 rankings this week. Houston, Iowa, North Texas, and James Madison. Here's 20 through 16. Tulane, pretty good jump for Tulane. They're now in the top 20 at number 20. Michigan drops 4 spots after their loss to Ohio State. They fell to 19. Big jump for Arizona with their big win on the road at Arizona State. They move up 7 spots to number 18 this week. Virginia up 1 to number 17 with their blowout of their state rivals of Virginia Tech. And USC does climb up a spot to number 16. Again, not going to have any bearing for the playoff for them, as USC's playoff chances were lost when they lost that game at Oregon 2 weeks ago. I noticed some new people, new viewers jumping in on the live stream here. I want to reiterate something I pointed out at the beginning in case this is not live. These rankings were put out about an hour and a half ago. I'm just now seeing them. I wanted to go on the live stream and react and have y'all jump on the live chat, see what you think of these rankings. So these are not live. These were already put out, but like I say, I'm just now getting around to seeing them, so I just wanted to jump on tonight and get everybody's reaction. Okay, so I'm going to pause it here. So with North Texas entering the poll at number 24 and Tulane coming in at number 20, that now means for officially now, whoever wins that American Championship game between North Texas and Tulane, since both are in the top 25 now, whoever wins that American Championship will be headed to the college football playoff officially now, since both teams are in the top 25. Now we're going into the top 15, so I think they'll be revealed one at a time. Okay, so here, number 15, dropping 2 spots. That's interesting. Utah probably has no chance now since they dropped 2 spots, even though they came back to win at Kansas. Vanderbilt stands pat at number 14. They, again, do not have a game this week since they're not in the SEC championship game, so that might be that might be a little too much for them to get into the playoff now as well, since they're standing in at number 14. Still, what a year for them at 10-2. All right, who's number 13? It's Texas. So Texas jumps up to number 13. They jump 3 spots with their win over Texas A&M, but at 13, I still don't see how they're going to be able to get in here. I think they probably needed to get to 10 or 11 to have a shot, and I just don't know at 13. I just don't see Texas getting in, being down that low. All right, getting ready to get to number 12. That's going to be Miami. See, with them not being in the ACC championship game and them still being at number 12, you're going to have that American Athletic winner get a slot. If Virginia wins the ACC, they're going to get a slot. At Miami at 12, I don't see how Miami gets in at number 12 right now. I thought that going in. I just don't think Miami has a shot. All right, who's number 11? BYU is still at number 11. So being at number 11, it sure looks like BYU is going to have to win the Big 12 championship game to get in. I do not understand for the life of me, looking at their strength of record and everything, I do not understand why they are still ranked as low as they are. Strength of schedule 35. Well, that strength of record 6. 15 FPI. How in the world are they at 11? That makes no sense to me at all. Their only loss was Texas Tech. Granted, it was a blowout loss. They'll get a chance for redemption in the Big 12 title game. It looks like it's going to have to be a win. Notre Dame drops a spot to number 10. This is very interesting. So Notre Dame dropping a spot. So this means, I think, with Notre Dame dropping to 10, if Duke wins the ACC and James Madison wins the Sun Belt, okay, for Notre Dame, let me start over at number 10. If BYU wins the Big 12 championship game, they're in, and Texas Tech is still going to be in, because there's no way they're dropping from where probably going to be number 4. There's no way they're going to drop from number 4 all the way out. So if BYU wins the Big 12 title game, they're in. Texas Tech is still going to be in. So there goes one at-large spot right there. If Alabama wins the SEC championship game, they're going to go. Georgia's still going to be in. So if Alabama wins the SEC championship game, there goes another at-large spot. I don't think Alabama's in if they lose the SEC championship. So if BYU and Alabama both win, that's probably 2 at-large spots gone. So with Notre Dame dropping to 10, if BYU and Alabama both win this weekend, Notre Dame may be out because there won't be enough slots left. Stanford's not that good of a team, so even though Notre Dame blew them out, it doesn't look, that didn't help them at all. Yeah, strength of schedule 42. Strength of record is 13, and the FPI is 3, but Notre Dame's best win is probably what, USC? Alabama jumps a spot to number 9, so Notre Dame and Alabama flip-flop. I still think Alabama's going to have to win the SEC championship game to get in. Who's number 8 here? See if they drop Ole Miss to 8 here. They were 7 last week. A lot of people saying Ole Miss may be out entirely. I don't see that happening. That's not going to happen now because of where they're at. But I never thought that was feasible. Oklahoma is at number 8. And I'm sorry, excuse me, Ole Miss was 7 last week. So Oklahoma is at number 8, probably safe. Texas A&M drops 4 spots to number 7. So they're going to fall out of a first-round bye position. Probably still going to host a first-round game in College Station. Ole Miss jumps up to 6. So despite losing their coach, Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss still able to jump a spot. Their defensive coordinator, whose name escapes me at the moment, is going to take over coaching Ole Miss in the playoff. So now we're getting ready to go into the top 5. This should be Oregon's probably going to be 5, Texas Tech 4, Georgia 3, Indiana 2, and Ohio State 1, I would guess. Yeah, there's Oregon number 5. Oregon's going to safely be in. Can they crawl up to getting a first-round bye? I don't know. Texas Tech, they're number 4. This should be Georgia at 3. There is Georgia at number 3, and this should be Indiana and Ohio State 2 and 1. And yes, Indiana 2 and Ohio State 1. Indiana and Ohio State, of course, meeting in the Big Ten championship game this weekend, 1 versus 2. Loser is probably still safe for a first-round bye. So there's the updated bracket. 2 Big Ten, 1 SEC, and 1 Big 12 in the top 4. So this is interesting. So if Virginia wins the ACC championship, Virginia is going to be in as conference champ number 4, and then the American Athletic winner is going to be conference champion number 5. If Duke wins the ACC championship, all you group of 5 haters, well, all you group of 5 haters aren't going to be very happy. You better be darn well rooting for Virginia in the ACC championship game this weekend if you're a group of 5 hater, because if you're a group of 5 hater and Duke wins the ACC, you're going to have 2 group of 5 teams in the playoff, folks. The American Athletic winner would be conference champion number 4, and this is assuming James Madison beats Troy. If James Madison beats Troy with a Duke win, James Madison's going to be that conference champ number 5 since they got into the rankings this week. So Duke is kind of an oddball in there. First 2 teams out would be BYU and Miami can do nothing for themselves since they're not playing in the ACC championship game. BYU, again, as I said when it came out, BYU looks like they're going to have to win the Big 12 championship to get in. Again, I cannot for the life of me understand why BYU is so low. I mean, so BYU looks like they're going to in a must-win against Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game to get into the college football playoff. See what Booger McFarland has to say here. Hang on just a minute. I'm going to back this up real quick. See what Booger McFarland has to say. I sometimes like listening to what he has to say.
So what's a big takeaway for you here initially?
Well, I continue to look at 8 through 12. And when you look at Oklahoma, Alabama, Notre Dame, BYU, and Miami's sitting there at 12. If you're Miami at 10-2, you're staring up to these 2 teams. There's really nowhere for Miami to go. And I think Miami feels like that, yeah, we lost some games, but we're playing really good football right now. Carson Beck is starting to play well. And if we're going to talk about other teams like Notre Dame, got better throughout the season, how come Miami can't get better? How come Miami can't be playing their best football right now? 2 years in a row. A 10-2 Miami team, regardless of what you think about how they played, might get left out of the playoff. And to me, that doesn't.
Problem with Miami is they had those 2 losses. The loss at SMU isn't looking terrible. The home loss to Louisville, the way Louisville kind of faltered there at the end, that's not looking quite as good of a loss. And it's when the losses happened. Yes, Miami beat Notre Dame head-to-head. That was week 1. Notre Dame lost in week 2. Notre Dame has not lost since, nor have they really been threatened since week 2. Yes, head-to-head comes into play, but Miami's 2 losses came later in the season than Notre Dame's. And two teams that Louisville was playing great at the time, but Miami, you're at home in that game. You should not lose that game. And then, like I say, at SMU, that one, yes, SMU has 4 losses, but SMU is still a pretty good team. So that one you can maybe not quite, it doesn't look quite as bad.
Regardless of how you think they might have played, that does count in this. And so it's interesting to me to see what happens if Alabama happens to lose to Georgia, because they're sitting in front of 2 teams that aren't playing football this upcoming weekend, and it's going to have the question mark of how important is it to get to this conference championship. A&M might have done themselves a favor and not having to play an extra game and getting a home game in this situation. That's going to be interesting to see what happens with those wins and losses in the championship.
Alabama being at number 9, if they lose to Georgia, that's going to be their 3rd loss. If Alabama loses the SEC championship game, I think they're out. You got Texas in there with 3. Texas isn't even in the top 12. Texas ain't getting in the playoff, folks. I mean, that's All you Texas fans, that's it. And it's not the loss to Ohio State that's hurting him. You lost to a Florida team that went 4-8 if you're a Texas fan. And that was either halfway through the season or a little bit past the halfway mark of the season. You cannot lose that game to Florida. You just cannot. You can't. Especially as down as a Florida team was this year. That's a game you cannot lose if you're Texas. And that's the game that is going to keep them out, it looks like. It's not going to be the Ohio State game. You cannot lose to this Florida team this year that they lost to. And plus, you got blown out by Georgia. Yes, it was a close game into the fourth quarter, blah, blah, blah. You lost by 25 points.
Championship games.
And the committee set a precedent last year. And a different committee, different people on the committee. This exact same scenario, we sat here last year, talked about SMU.
Yeah.
SMU had to play on Conference Championship Saturday. They lost that game to Clemson. Clemson won the ACC. What was going to happen with SMU? Would they drop behind Alabama, Ole Miss, Miami, and South Carolina? That was the big question. Who would get in? And the committee did not penalize the team that was required to play that 13th data point. So I think at this point, based on what we saw tonight, assuming Bama doesn't get steamrolled by 28 points, 21 points plus, I think Bama's in the field, regardless of the outcome of Saturday's game. They can only enhance their resume with a win against Georgia for the second time
I was thinking
and
the same
possibly
thing.
get all the way up to the point where they're in the 5 spot, which is much coveted, naturally a home playoff game, maybe even a first-round bye.
I mean, that's what it looks like right now. And it also looks like the reasoning
I'm sorry,
for doing
did Greg McElroy just say he thinks Alabama can get up to a first-round bye? Who are they going to pass? Even if they beat Georgia, you're saying they're going to jump 5 spots. Who are they going to pass? I mean, are you going to put them in front of Georgia? Okay, maybe, because they would have beat Georgia twice. That might bump Georgia out of a first-round bye. Ohio State, Indiana, that loser, unless they get absolutely blown off the field and ran off the field, which I don't foresee that happening. Ohio State, Indiana, that loser is still going to be in the top 4. If Texas Tech wins the Big 12, you're not going to be passing them. If Alabama wins, of course they're in, but I don't see them getting all the way up to a top 4 to first-round bye if Greg McElroy said what I think he just said.
I'm really fascinated to hear what Hunter Yurachek says was the thought process behind if it's course correction or if it's, if it's something maybe that I've brought this up a lot of times. Sometimes it only takes 1 or 2 people to change their mind if the debate has been heated in the room.
It could also be interesting, Reese, when you mentioned the Big Ten. In the event Georgia loses and Oregon moves up and 3 teams out of the Big Ten get byes in this situation, having not played those tougher schedules, that'll say to those other teams, hey, don't schedule anybody in the
It's a real consideration. It might have also motivated the Alabama move. AT&T keeping you connected with Bracket Insights. Heather Dinich over there. Heather, the ACC scenario with Duke and Virginia is a fascinating one.
It is, and the fact that JMU is ranked makes it all the more viable that the ACC could get left out entirely. But when we talk about
ACC will get left out
right
if Duke
here,
wins.
what if JMU loses? I don't want to eliminate Duke entirely because the selection committee would at
Heather, I respect everything you say. You're one of the people at ESPN I most respect, but Duke is not getting in with 5 losses, even if James Madison loses. They are not going to take a 5-loss team into the playoff. I'm sorry. If James Madison were to by chance lose in the Sun Belt Championship game to Troy, I do not foresee that. But if James Madison were to lose, it's probably going to jump down to the Mountain West winner, probably, right? Boise State, UNLV.
at least consider the fact that Duke had a top 20 win against Virginia. Guys, we've seen this before. You know, when they get in the room, they're watching the games together. If Duke beats Virginia, they're talking about Duke as the ACC champion. And Duke would have 7 wins against Power 4 opponents. No other group of 5 in the conversation would be able to say that. So while this is extremely significant, I wouldn't rule it out. A couple other things that I'm watching is BYU in the Big 12 is such an X factor in this, because if BYU beats Texas Tech, Notre Dame is probably going to be out. That's
Correct.
the way the math is going to work. But here's the other really interesting thing. And you talked about last year them saying that they're not going to move teams around, right? But if BYU moves out, by default, Miami's going to bump up a spot. If they bump up a spot and they're next to Notre Dame, do they flip them then because of the head-to-head? That's a very curious scenario.
And you know, it might come down to what we just talked about.
That's actually a very good point. If BYU does lose, Miami's probably going to jump to that 11th spot. And then with Notre Dame not playing, you don't figure they're going to move. That's actually a very good point as to what Heather just said. But I still, looking at this, don't see any possible way. I just don't see it. I don't know. I just don't see Miami I just don't see any way possible Miami gets in here. But that is a good point, what Heather Dinich just said.
With how close is the debate in the room? They have to stack them up some way. And if there's one person wavering, I'm not sure. I want to reevaluate. Last year, Ward Manuel told us that when he was the chair of the selection committee, that they told the committee, be sure, lock it in. Make sure you know what you believe.
It would be
right now.
amazing if two teams don't play in a weekend
And flip.
and then flip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then what are you saying that tonight? Then tonight couldn't matter. It can't happen.
Don't forget to sign up now. ESPN.com bracket challenge. ESPN.com/CFP challenge for the CFP bracket game. Once the bracket is established, you can do the competition. I think if you were filling out a bracket for the NCAA tournament, you might hitch your wagon to Cameron Boozer, the Duke Blue Devils, Florida and Duke coming up 7:30 Eastern time. Part of that SEC ACC challenge, and Hunter Yurachek is back.
I'm assuming that Cameron Boozer is part of that Boozer family, that Carlos Boozer's family. I'm assuming I don't know this for sure. I'm assuming there's relation there.
There he is.
He's got some splaining to do now. They flipped some teams.
Hunter's smiling. He's hired a coach. He's in good shape now.
That's right. His coach might get in the playoff too.
College Football Playoff Top 25 is presented by.
Not all oral care is created equal. The Colgate Total Active Prevention System is engineered to be 15 times more effective at fighting the root cause.
Turn that sound down, but okay. So, well, what do we think here? I mean, this is very interesting. What the committee. I'm anxious to see what Yormark says for a couple of those moves that he made.
Top 25, presented by AT&T.
Based on the current college football playoff rankings, here's what the bracket would look like. It is presented by AT&T. Heather Denich brought up
A rematch of Oklahoma, Alabama.
Yeah, we mentioned
in the first
Alabama,
round.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma would be in home field this time.
And this
And a rematch of Notre Dame, Texas A&M. I'm just now noticing that. Two rematches in the first round.
By Ole
If the
Miss
bracket
in the
holds
regular
like
season,
this.
they might get a second shot at them were they to be seeded 11th if they win the American. Verbo Team Spotlight is Hotty Toddy. Ole Miss moved up a spot despite moving on from Lane Kiffin, or him moving on from them.
Pete
and Pete
Golding,
Golding
that's
taking
the
over. You see the
man
numbers
taking
have
over
been
Ole Miss
outstanding.
defensive
A couple
coordinator.
of notable wins. The loss, they had a lead on Georgia and couldn't finish the deal. And the committee decided that what they had done was appropriate to move them up a spot. We are joined by the chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, Hunter Yurachek. Hunter, I think the most notable thing that happened in these rankings is that Alabama moved ahead of Notre Dame. Why?
Reese, I will tell you the debate between Alabama and Notre Dame over the past 3 weeks has been one of the strongest debates we've had in the room for the past 2 years that I've been a member of the committee. And I think this week, as we looked at those two teams and how closely they have been over the past 3 weeks, Notre Dame went on the road, had a strong win at Stanford, but Alabama went on the road in a rivalry game. Looked really good, especially in the first half, getting up 17-0, ran the ball well.
So hot in the
Auburn
second
came
half
back
to
at
pull
them.
that out.
They had a great gutsy call on 4th and 2 late in the third quarter to get a touchdown, and then got the turnover late in that game. And I think that was enough to change the minds of a couple of committee members to push Alabama up ahead of Notre Dame in this week's rankings.
You know what the question is going to be. Is that you're not going to want to have a team lose in the SEC championship game and get bumped out if, say, BYU wins the Big 12. Did that come up in the room?
It did not, Reese. We will evaluate the results of the championship game after they are all completed over the weekend.
Okay, here is a really important factor, too, because you're still honoring head-to-head between Alabama and Oklahoma with the Sooners being up. But it has not carried the day for Miami and Notre Dame. Neither Miami nor Notre Dame play anymore. Among the teams who are finished playing, do not play this week, can their order flip next Sunday in the final rankings? Or is the order for the teams whose hay is in the barn, whose resume is complete, are they set in terms of where they are relative to one another?
Great question, Reese. The management committee during the offseason provided some clarification to some comments that were made last year. And indeed, idle teams can move following the results of the championship games and how they impact the teams that are around those that play in the championship game, and data such as strength of schedule, teams that may be idle. So yes, teams that are idle can move up or down.
So we're not set with...
How? You have nothing else to go on. How is that possible? Idle teams that are idle this week can still move. How? There's no game this week to base that on. How is that possible?
Miami definitively being behind Notre Dame no matter what. Is that fair to say?
Reese, following the championship games, we will re-rank the top 25 teams, and we'll see where they fall.
I'm going to take that as the Canes still have a chance. Hunter, thanks a lot for being with us, and we look forward to talking to you on Sunday. And congratulations on the hiring of the new coach at Arkansas. Hunter, of course, the athletic director at Arkansas. College football playoff selection show presented by AT&T, Sunday at noon Eastern time. Joey, how long is that show going to last?
That's going to be 3 hours, Reese.
Attaboy.
Three really good hours.
Joey, this is the year we might need that extra hour, and you got rid of it.
Well, let me know if you need it, Reese. I'll give it to you.
Probably only going to have Herbie for 30 minutes, though.
Is that it?
Not all oral care is created equal. The Colgate Total Active
That's going to have to get explained to me. Idle teams on conference championship weekend can still be moved up or down depending on the results of other conference championships. How is that possible? What does Alabama, Georgia in the SEC championship game, Miami and or Notre Dame did not play either one of those two teams. How in the world does the SEC championship game between Alabama and Georgia affect Miami or Notre Dame? How? That makes absolutely zero sense.
AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
Chick-fil-A move on the field is Alabama. Alabama in the Iron Bowl. Ty Simpson didn't put up huge numbers, but he made 3 spectacular throws. 3 of the touchdown passes to Isaiah Horton. They also moved up a spot in the rankings, seemingly putting them in the field, barring getting blown out by Georgia. If Alabama were to beat Georgia and win the SEC, they go all the way up and get a first-round bye?
No. I don't think they get a bye. I think they get somewhere in the 5 or 6 neighborhood. I think the committee values Alabama's consistency, beating the 4 ranked teams in a row going through that stretch. When they're good, they can beat anybody. But I just think that loss to Florida State is probably going to keep them out of a first-round bye.
Yeah, I don't think they're getting up there either, even though they've had an amazing season. And they played a really good first half against Georgia the first time around, and they actually ended up winning the game because of that first half. They're going to have to play 4 quarters to get them this time. If they do win that game, I'm with Boog. They're getting in that 5 to 6 to 7 area.
I think they're going to bye if they win. I really do.
You think they're going to jump 5 spots?
I think George drops down maybe 5, 6 or so. Ole Miss will be right there. Everyone will kind of slide down. I wouldn't be surprised to get in the 4th spot. I would not be surprised at all. It depends a little bit on what happens with Texas Tech. How convincing is that? It depends a little bit on what happens in front of them, but I think it's absolutely within reach.
I wouldn't be upset. I mean, it wouldn't bother me if they went up there, but
it would be conference champions. The alternative would be the 3 Big Ten teams, and Texas Tech getting the buys. There's nothing wrong with that. The top 4 teams should get the buys. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But they value conference championships, so it'll be interesting.
We'll see.
I'm kind of with you guys, though. I don't think they quite make it. I'd say 5 or 6.
Yeah, that's a big jump.
That's a big jump.
Right. But we've seen some jumps here, and we saw a flip tonight, and we're going to see Florida and Duke now with Dan Shulman and Jay Billis.
All right, so we're going to wrap it right there. All right. So once again, the top 25 rankings look this way. Ohio State and Indiana still 1 and 2. They will meet for the Big Ten title this week. Winner, I don't think there's any question. The winner of the Big Ten championship game will be the 1 seed. I don't think there's any debate there. Ohio State number 1, Indiana number 2, Georgia 3, Texas Tech 4, and Oregon 5. Ole Miss at number 6, Texas A&M number 7, Oklahoma 8, Alabama 9, Notre Dame 10. I disagree with those guys, and I think Alabama, if they lose the SEC championship game, I think they're out. That'll be their 3rd loss. I could be wrong, but Notre Dame 10, and BYU 11, Miami 12, Texas 13, Vanderbilt 14, Utah 15. I don't see a path for Miami. I really don't. BYU, despite an 11-1 record, they look like they're going to have to win the Big 12 title game to get in. USC 16, Virginia 17, Arizona 18, Michigan 19, Tulane at 20. Houston 21, Georgia Tech 22, Iowa 23, North Texas 24, and James Madison 25. So again, with North Texas and Tulane both in the rankings now, that does mean officially the winner of that North Texas Tulane American Athletic Championship game will get the berth in the college football playoff as either the conference champion number 4 or number 5, depending on what happens in that Duke-Virginia game. If Duke beats Virginia, ACC's out, folks. I don't see any path for Miami, and I'm sorry. Despite what they are not taking a 5-loss team in the playoff. I'm sorry, Duke. I think the 5th conference champion would be James Madison, assuming they beat Troy in the Sun Belt. So we do have a chance to get 2 group of 5 teams in this year's college football playoff. So if you're a group of 5 hater, and I know there's a lot of you out there, you better be rooting hard for Virginia this weekend in the ACC. All right, so that's going to wrap it up on the live stream. I just wanted to jump on tonight and jump in on these new college football playoff rankings. Wanted to do a basketball live stream tonight, but getting into the busy season at work, the live stream schedule is probably going to be limited this week and probably for a little while. I will be on Friday evening. I will be on Friday evening on a live stream for that American Athletic Championship game between North Texas and Tulane. That is just after, I believe, 8 o'clock Eastern time. So I will definitely be on Friday night for the live stream of that American Athletic. And I will be on Saturday evening as well for a live stream. Probably going to be featured. The feature game is going to be Indiana, Ohio State. I'm also going to do like a jump over to the ACC championship game, Duke and Virginia. So it's going to be like a double game situation on Saturday night on the live stream, both here on my YouTube and Kick channels. Again, Sports Bonanza John here on YouTube. If you do like my content, do appreciate a like and subscribe. You can catch some prior content on there as well. Also on Kick, Sports Kick John, you can follow me there. You can also follow me on Twitch at Sport Guru John. I'm going to be jumping back on Twitch here before too long. I haven't posted any new content on there for a while, but we'll be jumping back on here before too long. I will be back on the live stream for sure Friday night for that American Athletic Championship game between North Texas and Tulane. If I get a chance to, I'll jump on earlier in the week and do a college basketball live stream, depending on the work schedule and everything. But for sure, we'll talk to you Friday night for North Texas and Tulane, the American Athletic Conference Championship game.